Welcome. Episode 2. Today is October 11th. We got a good show on deck for you today. Got a brief recap of last week, the big rivalry games in the NCAA this week. I ramble on about the state of the Steelers, and the dog gets hungry as we debate the best coaching names in college football.
Here we go!
This is Nate. I'm here with the dog, and we are ready to defend the bark. Let's get into it.
Let's do this.
So, recap of last week. Not going to throw it in your face, but I'm going to throw it in your face. 2-0. I hit both my picks.
You only picked 2.
Undefeated. You can't deny it. Didn't lose. Undefeated. I'll take it. Your picks weren't bad either, though. You lost your main pick for NCAA.
Yeah, Utah State.
Utah State. But you hit Fridays. Cincinnati. I really didn't like that pick, to be honest. I liked UCF. I thought they were a good football team, and you started off Friday. I thought it was going to be another week of Dogs magic, taking games that I questioned, and not only did they cover, but they took the W. You got Boise. They had kind of a late sketch cover, but they got the W, and Stanford covered as well.
They actually won that game.
So, again, you got two guys who won when you had them to cover, so it's a good look. You had your picks. You took the loss in NFL, though.
I did.
Giants did not look good.
No,
they did not look good.
No.
Danny Dimes did not live up to the hype this week.
Put you right back in.
3 for 5 for you, 2-0 for me. I'll take it for the week. My big win, I was hyped on them. Started off Saturday good, was Wisconsin. You know I love them. They play great defense and
Smash mouth football.
Leads me into this week.
Yep.
Wisconsin again, I like. They're at home against Michigan State, 10 points. I like them to cover that again. I don't know if that's my favorite pick, but it's definitely a top 3 pick for me.
Yeah.
I think up there with that, other favorites at home, Georgia. I talked about them. I'm going to be on the Georgia bandwagon. 24 points to cover at home against South Carolina, and Notre Dame at home against USC.
I also like a home team this week. I like West Virginia. That's my pick against Iowa State at home. West Virginia played a tough Texas team. They played them. The score did not show how close that game was, and they played really good football for 3 quarters of that. And then Texas just simply out-talented them. But I don't think Iowa State's close to how good Texas is, and I think West Virginia at home, tough place to play, will cover that 10 points.
I definitely agree. Texas is a much better football team, so 10 points does seem like a lot. I didn't see that. I kind of like that pick. I'm gonna hop on board with that too. It's yours, and I'm going to stick with mine, so I'm not going to bandwagon too much. I'll stick with the home teams. I think we got a home team train going. The home favorites for me. And like I said, Georgia. Georgia is someone I'm going to stick with. Wisconsin, Notre Dame. I think all 3 of those teams are kind of underrated, even though all 3 are in the top 10. I'd even stretch to say Georgia might be the most underrated team in the top 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that's crazy. They're tied for 3rd in the AP right now, but there's kind of a lot of conversation about who's number 1. Clemson played that tight game with UNC.
Sure lost.
Alabama hasn't looked great, but Georgia's looked solid. I think Georgia has the best win on their resume right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Against Notre Dame. And Notre Dame's a great football team. I think they're, like I said earlier, I think they're underrated. So I like Georgia. I think they're somehow underrated, flying under the radar in a sense.
They're the little brother of Alabama right now.
They are, and that's how it's going to be for a while until someone consistently dethrones Saban. But I think Georgia is the most underrated team in the top 25. I don't see too many others who I feel are underrated.
Yeah, I don't like a bunch of teams that I feel like are very underrated, but one team I think is Baylor. You know, they destroyed Stephen Fawcett and UTSA, 2 teams I didn't know were D1. And then they played Rice, who you think is absolutely horrific.
Oh yeah, they're 0-6.
Yeah,
I think they're a bottom 5 team in the nation.
That's a little harsh.
I mean, they're like that big bowl of rice that you have to put your phone in because it's wet. That's how bad they are.
They still won, though. They still won by 8. And then, but those 3 games are just whatever. But the last 2 games caught my eye. A win against Iowa State at home, who they were down 21-0 to in the fourth. They should come back with their resiliency, and to win that game 23-21 is a good win against a Big 12 opponent. And then Kansas State, who was ranked last week, they won pretty handily at their place. I thought that was a good win, and I think they slipped in the top 25. It's my second time in a row picking A, a Texas team, and B, a team that slipped in the top 25. I like them. I think they're a good underrated team.
I think it's both looking and talking about these games. We jumped right into it, skipped over our lead question that we like to talk about first, but I think it's just obvious for us. We're that excited about it. This week is a way better slate in NCAA. You agree, right?
Info, yeah.
We didn't even really talk about it, but if we look at it, Florida at LSU, Oklahoma at Texas, Penn State at Iowa, those are all featured games.
Yeah.
Those are going to be great. I'm excited.
Bama A&M.
Yeah, I like that game.
Yeah.
We talked about that earlier.
A&M played Clemson tough. I think Alabama was significantly better than Clemson, but still, they put it in tough.
I like Bama to win that game, but it's kind of an interesting game of like the question marks about who is number one. Is Alabama having to prove themselves now against an A&M team? I think so. Washington State at ASU. I'll get into that one later.
Yeah. And the late games are good.
Yeah, late slate. Hawaii at Boise. You're going to be at that game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wyoming at San Diego State, and Washington at Arizona.
Yeah.
I think normally being on the West Coast here, you get that late slate of games. You cross your fingers to hope one is good.
You got all 3 though.
Yeah.
Wyoming San Diego State game is an interesting, underrated game.
Yeah, I think both are 4-1.
Yeah.
So a lot meaning for them.
That's got Mountain West implications on it.
Definitely.
I like this slate because you have a lot of games that could come down to the conference championships and like playoff implications with those ranked teams playing that all think they have a chance getting in the playoffs, and then all those teams too. There's a lot of teams that think they can win the conference by winning the games this week.
Yeah, and then you compare that slate just to looking at the NFL. I see 49ers at the Rams. I see the Eagles at the Vikings. That has, I think, a lot of playoff implications for those 2 teams who are struggling to kind of put their stamp forward and fight in their division. The Vikings lose, I almost want to count them out. But other than that, it's a lot of boring games.
Yeah.
It's a lot of games I don't want to watch. I might find something else to do on Sunday with my time other than just sit.
No, you won't.
Probably true. Got me there. But like I said, we covered that big slate, those 3 of those ranked opponent games. And then, you even get to, we mentioned it, the Washington State at Arizona State game. I'm intrigued by that game. That leads me into my pick for the most overrated team in the top 25 is Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at this line here, and I don't know if you saw it, but this is an 18th ranked team in the nation playing Washington State, who doesn't have a single AP top 25
They should,
vote.
though. They couldn't stop me if I put on the offense.
Yeah, I mean, they lost to UCLA in that game that we've talked about, and we're going to talk about it all year because of just how insane that was. But if you're 18th in the nation and you're playing a team that shouldn't be getting AP top 25 votes, and you're at home and you only have 1.5 points on them, that shows me that Vegas thinks you're not very good. You're overrated. And you know what? Vegas makes a whole lot more money than I do doing exactly what we're talking about. So I'm going to lean with them. I'm going to stick with ASU being my overrated team.
Their loss to Colorado at home was a little bit of a head scratcher with wins against Michigan State and Cal away.
I think the road wins help their ranking. And they were both ranked teams when they beat them. Cal's quarterback was hurt.
I mean, they'd probably lose that game with the Cal's quarterback.
The Michigan State game was an ugly 10-7.
Terrible, yeah.
And I think they have a great coaching staff. Obviously, NFL pedigree. They're probably coming in with schemes that their coaching staff, if not winning games for them, definitely putting them in a position to win games. Mm-hmm. But again, we're talking about betting. We're talking about what Vegas thinks. And Vegas is king when it comes to it. And I think they're overrated.
My pick for the most overrated team in the country is Iowa. I mean, they have wins against Miami, Ohio, Rutgers, who those both teams we all know suck. And then Iowa State with the weather delay, and that game was just sloppy. Probably should have lost, won 18-17. Middle Tennessee State, who
blew them out,
but terrible. And then Michigan. I mean, you scored 3 points against Michigan. I mean, I know Michigan's defense is above average, but you can't score 3 points and not be considered overrated in my opinion. I mean, it's early on this year. I don't think Michigan's that good. I've said this before, the last episode. And they only scored 3 points to not make that game very competitive. Makes me feel like they're overrated. We'll see this week, though. They play Penn State, and that's an interesting game. We'll know more about it.
Kind of down on the middle of the road of Michigan and Iowa. You put them down the past 2 weeks as being overrated, and I kind of like that. I mean, they're the 4th and 5th ranked teams in the Big Ten. You're not expecting much. You got Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Penn State all ahead of them. For me, if you're going to talk about overrated in the Big Ten, they're not ranked yet. They got the 26th most points is Minnesota, 5-0. I don't know who they've played. I saw the Purdue game. I remember
they won
that.
At Fresno State.
But I don't think they've won by more than a possession. They've struggled. I really think the other 5 teams in the Big Ten are much better. And we've talked about this. Look at them at Ohio State's 3, Wisconsin's 8, Penn State's 10, and Michigan and Iowa are 16 and 17. That's 5 Big Ten teams in the top 17. And
the East is better than the West, in my opinion, though, by a lot. You got Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and Michigan State all in the East. And really, you have Wisconsin, Iowa, and then you have the overrated Minnesota team in the West.
Yeah, I think Michigan State could even be a better football team than Minnesota.
I could see that.
They were ranked last week, and again, they lost to Ohio State.
They're playing decently tough, though.
What would you expect? We didn't expect anyone to win, but that's, again, you're 25, you play the number 3 ranked team in the nation. We expect you to lose. You play a solid football game, and you have to get bumped from the rankings. That's how it works. The whole Big Ten, it's a mess. Everyone's going to beat each other. It leads into the conversation, kind of a big question that I'd like to follow in the next couple weeks. Is it possible that the Big Ten misses out on the college football playoff?
I didn't think it was possible until you look at the schedules of the West has to play. Wisconsin has to play Ohio State on the road. When I thought Wisconsin playing in the West would have a legit chance of going undefeated in the West, they have to play out Ohio State, which was probably a loss. And Ohio State has to play, since they're in the East, some good teams. So I think that it's a legit question to ask. I'm not sure it's going to happen, though, because I think a one-loss team from the Big Ten championship game, which I think will be Ohio State and Wisconsin, will probably make the playoff.
Yeah, I think that comes into who we expect to. I mean, everyone's going to expect Clemson to take a spot. I think after this week, if Oklahoma wins, we're expecting that to happen.
Both those teams are bad leagues.
Yeah, and that's 2 spots. Yeah. And then I don't care what happens. I don't care if the best team in the SEC is a 2-loss team. The SEC needs to have a team. And
minimum
frankly,
1.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point right there. You're talking about 2 teams that are almost locks to come in from weak conferences. And then the SEC, who has been dominant in college football, deserves 1 team regardless of record.
I think,
and maybe 2.
I think that since Auburn already has their loss, they're out of the question for playoff because the SEC is so tough. But I mean, Florida has
an early loss.
It is an early loss, true. But I think they have to win out because the SEC is so good. But Florida can make a statement though with winning at LSU, and they'll be a legit. They answered my question. The backup quarterback really answered my question last week against Auburn. But they have a legit chance, Florida does, to make themselves a true playoff contender if they win this week, and no one would question that.
That's reasonable. So let's track that playoff talk as we go from this week to next week and moving on, and move into our NFL playoff talk. My Bills.
Your Bills.
Got that W last week because Tennessee cannot kick a field goal.
They released him. He's gone.
Yeah, no
Carlos
more.
Santos.
Kick him out. They need Tucker over there.
Trade for a kicker.
Yeah. So Bills with another win. Now they are 4-1. They're looking nice. Their schedule is set up. We had this whole conversation last week, and you just said it. You have a foot in the door for the bandwagon. Yep. That's what I like to hear. I think Allen. You think they're going to make the playoffs now?
I actually do. Their schedule is very favorable. I'm not all in, but the way Josh Allen has been playing, I keep having question marks with him, but he keeps proving to me that week by week he's a solid quarterback. He's not a running back. That I think they have, and their schedule is so favorable that they play the Dolphins 2 times in 5 weeks.
Yeah, quick recap. They have a bye this week to regroup, get all the injuries settled, all that. Every football team plays better coming out of a bye, in my opinion.
Against the Dolphins, that's a double bye.
And then If it's a double bye, this is the bigger game that they're going to have in the next month and a half is
Eagles
at home
Yeah.
against the Eagles. Then they got the Redskins, Browns, and Dolphins again, followed by the Broncos. I mean, that's 6 games where 5 are very winnable. They're probably going to be the favorites in 5 unless they start to fall off a cliff.
The Browns and Eagles are a little bit of a toss-up because the Browns is a away game.
Okay, but I still like them.
I still like them that game, though, too.
I still like them.
The Browns are terrible.
So you're talking about a team who's 4-1, who could potentially go 5-1 in their next 6 games and be sitting at 9-2. Now, that's a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 9-2. Other teams are going to struggle to be close to that record at that point.
Their little tough, though. They had to play at the Cowboys, the Ravens at home, and at the Steelers.
We talked about that last week, but I don't care. They're a team whose defense is good enough to keep them in games.
Mm-hmm.
If you find a way to win 1 or 2 of those games, 10 wins, 11 is going to get you in the playoffs.
Yeah.
10 wins, pretty good chance to get in the playoffs. The team that I'm questioning that could maybe be a 10-win team and miss the playoffs is the 49ers.
I love the 49ers. I think they're a really good football team.
I just am questioning their division. And
their division.
Who have they beat so far?
To be honest, if I had to bet, I would bet that they're not going to make the playoffs because their division is so tough. But I really think Mike Shanahan is drawing up some good run plays with the 2 backs of Matt Breida and Tevin Coleman. And Jimmy G's playing pretty well. They don't have a true number 1 receiver, so it's a little bit questionable, but their defense is playing well. They got a great pass rush. I think they're a really good football team.
I know that you were really excited about their Week 1 win.
Yeah, it was against the Bucs.
I just want to ignore that for a second and then go AFC North, AFC North, AFC North.
True.
If you
and the Ravens are not one of those teams.
Yeah, the 3 worst teams in the worst division in the NFL, and we're getting excited, and they've had a bye week.
Yeah.
So they're undefeated. I get it. They still have to play the Rams twice. They have to play the Seahawks twice.
They play the Packers, the Saints.
They're gonna get the Ravens, like you said again. I don't know if they get to 11 wins to secure that playoff spot because we both think that's a for sure number.
Yeah.
And I could see 10 being a situation where we have 10 wins, but we have 2 losses to the Rams or 2 losses to the Seahawks who we're tied with, and we're losing out on a playoff spot because of tiebreakers. Yes, they beat up on the AFC North. Good.
Everyone should.
And again, the Rams are going to play them.
Yeah.
Everyone in their division gets to play the AFC North teams too. So they're going to cash in on those wins.
The Cardinals are the worst team in their division, and they're no cakewalk. They would not surprise me if they went into the 12th man and upset the Seahawks. They wouldn't surprise me if they beat anyone besides the top couple teams in the NFL because I think they have the talent to do it.
I think that is a very tough division. It's obviously going to get a lot of attention with the fact that the 49ers are undefeated and the Rams are the Rams playing in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
And the Seahawks beat the Rams, so they're getting a little attention, but I think
they're lost, though.
They're slightly flying under the radar right now.
Yeah.
They're my pick of the week for the NFL.
Seahawks.
They're a 1.5-point favorite over the Browns, and I don't think the Browns are good. Obviously, they're a team that can be dynamic. They're a team that can put up points, but you saw them on Monday night look terrible. I get that it's in Cleveland. The Seahawks they're a franchise that wins year in and year out now.
Wilson is having a legit MVP candidate season.
And it's 1.5 points. That's basically you're asking me if I think they're going to win. Yes, I think they're going to win. So that's my pick of the week. I really like the Seahawks in that division. I think they're flying under the radar. And I like them to win that game and cover.
I like that pick. My pick of the week is the Dolphins money line plus 150 at home against the Redskins. At least we know for the Dolphins who's the quarterback and who's the coach. For the Redskins, we have no idea who the coach is and who the quarterback is. At least everyone's hating on the Dolphins. This is a game that can actually win at home. Everyone's talking about they're going to go 0-16. I don't think so. I think they're going to win this game at home against the Redskins.
I hate the Dolphins. I'm on that bandwagon. I shouldn't say I hate them, but I'm hating on them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a reasonable point here to bring up that they're 150. I didn't realize that. And the point that I like better is they're playing the Redskins.
Yeah.
Is anyone that bad to where the Redskins should be a favorite and the other team's a 150 money line underdog? I think that's good value for a team that's playing another team that sucks. And You don't even know which team I was talking about first and which one was talking. They both suck. And it's a coin flip.
Go with the home team.
Take the home team who's an underdog with good value.
Yeah.
That's a reasonable pick.
Mean, you're not going to watch this game, so might as well bet on it.
Yeah. And I like the strategy of going against teams that aren't getting it done. That's how most teams
Everyone's hating on them. Everyone's been on the Dolphins hating on them. I think they're going to prove the haters wrong, and they're going to win this game. 1-15.
The other game I was considering for NFL was Titans money line for almost the same reason. They're on the road against the Broncos. I know the Broncos won last week, but for 4 weeks to start, they were looking atrocious. They were looking like a team that if you're in a Survivor League, just pick who's playing the Broncos. Yeah. Because they're going to get the win. That one's a coin flip. The Titans are only a 2-point favorite, or I think the Broncos are favored. The Titans are +2 on the spread. They're +110 money line. I know it's at home for the Broncos. I know they're coming off a win. I know the Titans just sucked at kicking, but the Titans are a good defensive football team.
They are.
Vrabel is their coach. He is Belichick coaching tree from the defense of arguably, I mean, we're both young enough to say easily the best defensive coach that's been around for our lives. And you got one of the centers of his defense, one of his linebackers, coaching a team who's coaching up a defense. I don't know what the numbers are, but they got to be.
They're third in fantasy, I know that.
One of the teams that's holding at least points against. They got to be up there in holding teams down. So I was considering that pick. I like them. I actually think they're a good football team just to bounce back. I think
they're going to win the division, actually.
Wow, that is bold. Remember that. I want to now revisit that every week. So I'm going to hop on the Bills making the playoffs bandwagon.
I like the Titans.
And then every week we're going to talk about how, yes, Nate, you were closer to being right. You were and then every week we're going to talk about how, dog, I can't believe that between week 5 and week 6 you were saying the Titans are going to win the division.
Like you said, they have a good defense. The run game is pretty good. The wide receivers have been big question marks over the years are playing pretty well. A.J. Brown, that rookie from Ole Miss, is looking really good. And Marcus Mariota is playing his best year he's had, so I like him.
I mean, I was just trying to come up with an argument for them to win this week against a 1-4 Broncos team, not come out here to win the division.
Their division sucks, too.
I can't wait to revisit that later. Hopefully I'm wrong, because I like when the dog magic works in your favor. It's always fun to see you get them right. So I think that's our coverage for the NFL this week. Hayden, we miss anything?
I just want to bring up the Pittsburgh Steelers this week.
I was trying to avoid that. Conversation. I kind of had a feeling you guys would not let me get out of that. So let's start with expected game, guys, right?
Good quality football game.
Always. I mean, do the Ravens and Steelers play and it's not a 3-point game?
It's going to come down to a Justin Tucker field goal every time.
And he doesn't miss, so
the Ravens win.
That's how it's going to go. I can't believe how that game was going because there was feeling from me. I mean, we said it last week, I'll say it again, and I guess we're going to talk about it all the time as I'm a huge Steeler fan. I'm completely biased. I was thinking partly through the week, the Steelers are going to lead their division. Week 5, they were going to be 0-3, and then week 5, they were going to lead their division. With the Ravens somehow falling to 2-3 after looking godly in week 1 and week 2, as you know, they were going to run through the division. The Browns were playing on Monday night. They could lose, and the Bengals. I mean,
don't talk about them.
Yeah, they are the worst team in the worst division.
Yeah,
they're trash. So the Steelers could have been 2-3, tied at the top of the division with the tiebreakers.
Yeah, without their quarterback.
And they're not a good football team, but as a fan of them, I was excited. And then I saw Mason Rudolph just go stiff.
Died.
It was as a Steelers fan, that was he walked because the cart broke down.
How does that happen?
I mean, and you have a team of football players. Did you see who was pushing the cart? It was like, you know, the person who's the water boy and the person who holds the towels. It's like you have offensive linemen who get paid millions of dollars to move big objects. Get them out on the field.
The water boy just needs to squirt in the water.
Yeah, that was just a whole mess. I think everyone was in shock, just like me watching, though. And, you know, he went stiff. It looked like it's going to be Ryan Shazier all over again, he's had a great recovery, and it's been awesome. But that's just...
He's not playing football again.
It's painful to watch, and it makes you cringe just seeing that kind of thing happen. And we're all in shock. They have the water boy pushing the cart off, and they're panning to this backup QB, Delvin Hodges.
No one knew who he was.
Yeah,
no
I
one.
mean, you pick someone out of the stands, a hot dog vendor, someone who's selling peanuts. I don't know what they sell at Heinz Field. That's
Probably
their
ketchup.
big. Yeah, the hot dogs. You gotta have the ketchup to put on the hot dogs. Whoever sells them in section 134 is more familiar to the season ticket holders than Delvin Hodges.
No one knew who he was.
And they keep saying, "Oh, he's
From
through for Samford." I'm like, was that Stanford?
Third string quarterback.
Is he smart? Yeah. If he was the third string QB from Stanford, I would have felt more confident than when they flashed it up there and said Sanford. I don't even know what state that's in. I mean, what is happening with this team?
Are they
falling
like
apart?
D5?
Yeah.
They're in a division. Like,
I have no idea. I could
They're
not
JUCO
say
team.
that. I was not stoked as a fan. But I'll hand it to him.
he did play well.
He threw the ball well.
Yeah.
He marched the team down. They were in a position to win that game. They had a tough roughing the passer call on Baltimore's last drive, and heartbreaking moment for Steeler fans as those dreams as leading the division slowly dwindled away to being 1-4.
Yeah.
Looks like it's going to be Mike Tomlin's first losing season as a NFL head coach.
That's a crazy stat.
I hope not. I hope they turn it around and somehow find a way to get to 8 wins. I don't think 9's even possible. I mean, sure, it's obviously possible, but it sure doesn't feel like it. So, what else we miss, Hayden?
I think we're ready to move on to the Mike Leach question of the week. This week's question is, what is the best coaching name in college football?
I like Jimbo Fisher. I mean, like, you think of Jimbo Shrimp on like Popeyes.
It's called Jumbo Shrimp.
Jumbo Shrimp.
The dog is hungry.
Yeah, feed me.
Feed the dog.
Yeah, but like it makes me think of, and like Fisher, like
fish,
yes,
like shrimp.
yes,
Oh, here we go
yes,
again.
Yeah.
He's hungry.
But
he
yes,
can't even focus.
That's why I like the name.
I wrote down a couple for this. Jimbo was actually on my list
Yeah,
as one of
Good
my
name.
7. The other ones that I had, I don't know if I had decided on which I wanted to pick. I was going to see who you picked. I'm going to read through them all here and just go through them, and then I'll decide as we talk them out. First, I got Charlie Strong.
Big boy. Strong.
Love that last
Yes. Ripped.
name. Yeah.
I'm not taking one coach in the country to beat him in a fight.
He fits the name.
Yeah.
That's
he does.
part of it. Like fitting the name, fitting the school, all that. It's kind of like Coach O down at LSU.
Yeah.
The way that he says, go Tigers,
Yeah. Go Tigers.
Hold that Tiger. It fits. Same with Charlie Strong. Second down the list here, I got Dabo. Do I need to say his last name? Dabo Sweeney at Clemson. I mean, Clemson. So I think this one is kind of a boring pick just because I think he's the obvious choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he's become that first name coach.
Yeah.
Like I said, do I need to say his last name? It's Shaq, it's Kobe, it's Dabo. He gets all the attention. They've been such a great program. I don't think it's a fun pick. A fun pick I do like from another Orange team is the Orange Syracuse Dino Babers.
Dino Nuggets? Like from Costco?
The dog is hungry. The family is out of town. They forgot to leave food. They forgot to get a house sitter. And this
Like
dog
Costco,
is just dying for food. Okay, so another name I like is Scott
I
Frost.
like that too. It's a good name.
It feels a little bit like,
It feels like he should be coaching like Maine though.
yes,
Vermont.
a little bit of a boring team
Syracuse.
where they read a lot of
Yeah.
poetry.
It's cold.
It's a little bit cold.
Yeah.
Scott Frost in Nebraska sounds a little bit too much like a Robert Frost poem.
Yeah.
But I guess that fits. It's like the whole Coach O, Charlie Strong. It fits in the mix, so I like that. With that, I like Rocky Long.
It's a good name.
I love
a flat
Rocky.
out good name. It's like Ty Long, the kicker for the Chargers. It's a great kicker name.
Yeah. Rocky just seems, such a great intimidation name.
Yeah.
I talk about how I love Mike Tomlin because of his intimidation look on the sideline. Rocky just seems like he's tough.
If you're the Wyoming coach, like you have to who are you going against? I'm going against Rocky Long. Like you're gonna lose. Like that's a loss waiting to happen.
The last one I had written down was Will Muschamp at South Carolina.
He's not champion though.
Yeah, but he's got it in his name.
Doesn't fit the name though.
Doesn't fit the name, not like the others.
No.
I
like
think
the name, but like you gotta fit. Like if that was Nick Sabechamp, like that's a great name. Like that's all he does.
fair enough. I'll take that. If I had to pick one here, one that stands out for me, I'm going to have to go with Dino. I know you said the Nuggets, but Dino Babers. I think that's a name that you're not hearing, is not going around. Dabo is being said too much, but Dino is a new name. You should become a fan of them just because of that name. I'm sure he gets it a lot. Where's your name from? How do you say your name? You know, you have cool nicknames. I don't know if he has a cool nickname, but I bet he does. He has to with a name like, maybe that's his name is a nickname. I don't even know. But that's my answer for the week. You're going to stick with your Jimbo, Jumbo, whatever it is. I know you were caught up in the food, but I'm going to stick with another food name with Dino Nuggets. I guess you can see where our head's at and go with Dino Babers. Our next segment that we're going to move into is our dumb parlay. We love to do this. We love to be dumb with the money picks and just get exciting and say, hey, you're bored, string a whole bunch of bets together. They all have to happen to hit a parlay. Take that little money, cash it into big picks. What are you thinking?
I got 7 of them, a little bit more than last week. My first started off with Iowa money line plus 155 at home against Penn State. Overrated team, but I do think they're going to win at home this week against Penn State. Arizona State money line minus 105 at home against Washington State. I do like them this week just because pretty much it's a pick-em, and I think the home team mostly wins a pick-ems.
I think you've said this before. You're not a huge fan of the Wazoo defense.
No, I'm not. My next one is Vanderbilt minus 14 at home against UNLV. I mean, like I said last week, if I had to watch UNLV, my eyes would burn, so I'm not going to tune into this game. But I do like Vanderbilt minus 14 to win this game, and they are an SEC school. And then I got Colorado plus 21 at Oregon.
That's a lot of points.
A lot of points against a Colorado team that I think is pretty good. They lost last week to Arizona, but they beat Arizona State away a couple weeks ago. I think Oregon's going to win, but not by 21.
I agree.
The next one's Temple plus 5.5 at home against Memphis. Memphis is improving. Temple has beat a Maryland team. They beat a couple AAC teams. But we'll see how good Memphis is this week with all the hype they've kind of got sliding into the top 25. My next one was my pick of the week was West Virginia plus 10 at home against Iowa State. And at home, tough place to play in Morgantown. Nothing else to do.
You're really big into that. The crowd gets into it when there's nothing else to do.
Nothing else to do in Morgantown, West Virginia. But my last one, I like Arizona plus 6 at home against Washington. Washington coming off a disappointing loss at Stanford. Arizona coming off a great win against Colorado, at Colorado actually. And Khalil Tate actually played really well. Looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the Pac-12. And yeah, I really liked him. That comes out to plus 1250, plus 12.
12,500.
Yes.
Don't mess that up. 7 picks at plus 12,500. You get bored, throw $1 down on the dogs picks, and take that dollar, turn it into $125. Took 6 out of 7 home teams. If I'm looking back at what we said earlier, in college I threw out 3 games. All were the home team. Your pick was a home team. I think you picked the Dolphins out to be a home team. I'm going to kind of stick with that with my parlay. I tweeted it out. I had 11 picks on it now. A couple from college and a couple from the NFL. Let's stick with the NFL ones. At home, I got the Patriots Thursday. We're recording this right now during the game. Don't know what the score is, but I have every confidence that since it's not a Super Bowl, Tom Brady's going to take care of that.
He's 11-1 on Thursday night games.
I did not know that. Good stat. Also in the NFL, I got the Chiefs at home against the Texans, the Ravens at home against the Bengals, and I got Cowboys on the road against the Jets. I like all those teams there. Heavy favorites, but also like we talked about earlier, just playing terrible teams. And then my Monday night pick for the NFL, I do like the Packers at home, another home team. So 4 out of 5 of my NFL picks at home. And then in my NCAA picks streamed in there, Oregon at home against Colorado. You talked about Colorado to cover. I like Oregon to win. All my picks here are money line picks. I like Bama on the road against A&M, one of the few road teams, but it's Bama. Wisconsin at home, Notre Dame at home. I talked about them to cover, so obviously I'm going to take them money line as a part of this parlay. I like Utah on the road against Oregon State. Boise at Hawaii. You're going to be at that game, sending good juju for me.
Yep.
And that is my 11th pick, and that's 8 out of those 11 are home. Again, those are all money line picks, those favorites to win. It's not great odds because they're all favorites and they're heavy favorites, but that does come out to 11 picks at plus 760. So that's not too bad. And we'll move into our last segment today, something new. best value on a ticket. So if you are an ESPN junkie, a college football junkie, you log on to ESPN and you go to their schedule. Right next to the names, you might have seen it, you might have registered, might have been subconscious, but there's always this column there that says tickets, and it says tickets as low as. So every week we're going to look at the college games, we're going to look at the prices, know nothing about any of the seats, but just what ESPN lists as tickets as low as, and the two of us will both pick one. So Doug, you looked at the prices. What value do you see?
I like Maryland at Purdue. It's $11. What's there to do in West Lafayette than go to the Purdue game against a Maryland team that I actually thinks going to be a pretty high-scoring game. It's a pretty good game that you can go for $11.
Big Ten football.
Yeah.
That's not bad. $11 for Big Ten football. My pick, $1 cheaper, is Cincinnati at Houston. That's a top 25 team in Cincinnati. Good football team coming off a win against UCF, playing Houston and Houston's offense. It's probably going to be an exciting game for $10. $10 to get in the door. I know that's the worst seat, but I mean, it's 2019. You go into Subway, you order the $5 footlong, but you get the drink and the chips. It's more than $10. You can't pass on cookies.
No.
The dog is hungry. He is hungry. That's probably our sign off. Go make sure. We're going to go feed him right now. Finish up this episode. Thanks for listening. Have a good one, guys.
Peace.